Hello, welcome to Infectious Diseases. For as long as there has been life, there have been diseases. Let's start with the basics.
Your body has physical and chemical defenses against bad bacteria and pathogens. Your immune system fights diseases by producing a separate set of weapons for each kind of pathogen it encounters.
Your immune system has 4 types of these defense systems: lymphocytes, killer T cells, helper T cells, suppressor T cells, and B cells.
Lymphocytes are white blood cells that carry out the immune system functions in your body. There are 2 types of lymphocytes, T cells and B cells.
Killer T cells destroy any cell that has been affected by a pathogen. Helper T cells produce a chemical that stimulates other T cells and fights infection.
Suppressor T cells produce chemicals that turn off other immune system infections, and lastly, B cells produce antibodies for infections.
Antibodies are proteins that attach to the surface of pathogens to the toxins.
Infectious diseases are caused by organisms or viruses that enter and multiply in the human body.
Most disease-causing organisms are so small that they can only be seen through a microscope. These small organisms are called microorganisms.
What exactly are some of these organisms? Bacteria are simple-celled microorganisms. Bacteria live in things like air, soil, food, and in the bodies and humans.
Viruses are the smallest pathogen, about 100 times smaller than most bacteria. Unlike bacteria, viruses can multiply after entering a living cell. Viruses attack reproductive mechanisms and usually result in cell damage and sometimes death.
Fungi are organisms such as yeast, mold, and mushrooms. Fungi thrive in the dark, warm, and moist environments.
Protozoans are single-celled organisms that are much larger and more complex than bacteria. These are some viruses: pneumonia, and some common bacteria, the dominant spore, and again, pneumonia.
Pathogens of bacteria are spread through contact with another person, contaminated objects, or contaminated food.
These are some different types of infectious diseases: bacteria, viruses, fungi, and protozoans.
Because viruses and diseases spread through contact, some best ways to avoid getting sick are through washing your hands, avoiding contaminated objects or people, cleaning up your workspace often, and staying home to prevent sickness from spreading.
Here are some examples of diseases: avian flu, SARS, yellow fever, dengue fever, West Nile virus.
Your body's first line of defense against infectious diseases includes both physical and chemical defenses. These prevent pathogens from entering your body.
You have many physical defenses too, such as your skin, mucus, cilia, saliva, and your tears. Your skin serves as a physical and chemical barrier against pathogens.
Mucous membranes are linings that cover your mouth, nose, and eyes. Cilia is the hair on top of your mucous membranes.
Your saliva and tears trap pathogens and wash them away.
4 types of infectious diseases caused by bacteria are strep throat, Lyme disease, meningitis, and tuberculosis.
Some viral diseases are the common cold, influenza, pneumonia, and hepatitis.
Bacterial meningitis is an infection that causes inflammation in the spinal cord and the fluid that surrounds the brain.
Lyme disease happens when you are bitten by a tick.
Tuberculosis is a highly contagious bacterial infection of the lungs.
Thanks for listening to Infectious Diseases.